If you're in the market for an old school off-road ready SUV, it really didn't get much better than an original Land Rover Defender. That model was in production starting in 1949, ending back in 2016. And when Land Rover essentially killed off the Defender, the original one, they replaced it with a new version, although the new version doesn't quite fit the same old school analog charm as the original model because of its body-on-frame construction and live axles front and rear. In fact, the enthusiast market fell in love with the original Defender for its old school charismatic design that was extremely capable, but also extremely durable because of that simplistic design, which leads us to the vehicle that I'm standing by here, because what you're looking at is not a Land Rover, even though it looks like it. This is actually an Ineos Grenadier. And Ineos is actually a car company that was started back in 2017 by Sir Jim Ratcliffe, a billionaire from the UK who essentially wanted to replace his older Land Rover, and when Land Rover killed the model, he offered to buy the manufacturing rights. So when they declined, he decided to start his own company and build essentially that vehicle, but build it better and build it much more modern. So as you can see, this week we are testing out the latest Ineos Grenadier station wagon in this top Fieldmaster trim. And the big question I want to answer, for those of you who have truly been in the market for an old school SUV and you want something that can basically go anywhere at the same time feeling like a tank out on the road, how does the brand new Ineos Grenadier stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the very charismatic styling of the Ineos Grenadier, I thought I'd pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this thing. Because this vehicle is basically made by a new car company, you'd be surprised to see that Ineos actually went to BMW of all manufacturers to source its 3-liter turbocharged inline-6. Now, as you can see underneath the hood, you're going to find a longitudinally mounted 3-liter double overhead cam turbocharged inline-6. This is the B58 engine family that we know and love in so many BMW and even the Toyota Supra products that you're going to find in today's modern world. So I think Ineos went to the right partner for the powertrain. This engine is not assisted electrically by a hybrid or a mild hybrid, of course. It's technically a detuned version of the B58, and in the Grenadier, it makes 282 horsepower and 332 pound-feet of torque. All that power goes to an 8-speed ZF-sourced automatic. So again, very proven partners here for the powertrain. And this vehicle comes standard with the company's permanent 4-wheel drive system. The full-time 4-wheel drive system offers a mechanical lever to actually engage high, or 4 high and 4 low, and a limited slip center locking diff is also included. For an extra $3,000, you can add the rough pack, which my test car is missing, which will add locking front and rear diffs. That's right, just like the Mercedes G-Wagon, the Grenadier is offered with triple lockers. So that's, a feature that a lot of off-road enthusiasts really covet. And it's great to see that Ineos offers it on the Grenadier. Now, the downside, of course, with all of this, hardware that's off-road ready is the fuel efficiency is not great. This vehicle is rated to get 15 in the city, 15 on the highway. With its 23.7-gallon fuel tank, you'll be lucky to do 300 miles of range on a full tank. That's on the recommended premium fuel. Now, Ineos says this model will get to 60 in around 8.8 seconds. It has a top speed of around 99 miles an hour. So again, it's not designed for the road necessarily. That's, of course, due to its simplistic analog construction of the vehicle. Towing capacity is actually pretty good. It's rated to tow up to 3,500 kilograms or around 7,716 pounds. The curb weight of this vehicle is pretty heavy, though, at around 5,900 pounds, and that's, again, because of all the off-road hardware, which does add some weight. So, again, a vehicle like this is not designed, obviously, for fuel economy. But closing the hood, let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling of the Grenadier. And I have to say, I think Ineos did a fantastic job here with essentially grafting on the original looks of the old Defender, but also merging it a little bit with the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. There's definitely a lot of influence here where it looks like a lot of traditional off-roaders. In fact, a lot of people who don't know about this brand stare at it and think it's actually an old car, but at the same time, it has modern features like full LED headlights. You can see the hood is nice and long to make room for that inline-6. It has the Grenadier badge here to let everybody know which model you have. You can also get options here like a diamond plate to kind of cover this upper fender to help protect it. What it doesn't have, however, are those little frog lights, accent lights that you get on the G-Wagon. That again gives it a more distinctive look. The headlights, you can see all Grenadiers come standard with these halo-style full LED headlights with an LED daytime running light. LED turn signal, LED low and high beams. There's also these off-road driving lights here to the center, but for some reason I literally could not figure out how to turn them on from actually inside the vehicle. The button that I was pushing just didn't work. You can see behind this grille, you're gonna find the actual intercooler. It has some functional air intake openings at the upper portion and on the lower portion here of the front bumper. I also love with this car, how this car comes standard with steel bumpers. That's typically an expensive option that you're gonna find on some Jeeps and some Broncos. But again, it's standard on the Grenadier. You can't even get steel bumpers on vehicles like the new Land Rover Defender. Now you can see underneath the our front fascia here, you can see there's a beefy skid plate. This vehicle comes with skid plates along the entire underneath of the vehicle. You also have those front recovery tow hooks. You can also get them painted in gray or in red as well, where you can actually powder coat the entire frame in red. And Ineos says you have around 10.4 inches of ground clearance. The vehicle is around 76 inches wide, so it's pretty manageable in terms of its size. It's definitely not as wide as like something like a Bronco Raptor, for example. Now moving around the side profile, this is built on a ladder type body on frame construction. It has a recirculating ball type steering. It's got live axles front and rear and the shocks are by ABOC. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but the suspension or the body on frame is developed by Magma, and the rest of the chassis is actually, kind of a hodgepodge of different manufacturers that you might know, including the brakes, which come from Brembo, but at an overall length of 191.5 inches long and a 115-inch long wheelbase. This is a right-sized vehicle for a lot of off-roading. It's a mid-size SUV, but it's also around 10 inches longer than the original Defender 110, so kind of keep that in mind. But I love the boxy proportions. We'll talk about some of the other details in just a second. You can see my particular test car for an extra $2,400 has the optional 18-inch alloy wheels, which are an inch bigger versus the 17s. You can also get this with steel wheels or a diamond cut alloy. The diamond cut 17s are actually my favorite. These wheels are an extra $2,400, and my test car also has the upgraded BF Goodrich KO2 all-terrain tires. It's a 265 by 70 R18. I think these are 33-inch tall tires, so they're a good size. Brakes measure 12 inches in the front, clamped down by Brembo 2-piston calipers, while the rears are around 11 inches, single pot caliper, of course. The underneath here, you can see the shocks or the springs are actually yellow painted. Remember, this has live axles front and rear, and you also have, I believe, around 9 inches of suspension travel in the front, 12 inches of suspension travel in the rear. I also love a couple of details here, like there is an integrated turn signal there. That's LED Ineos badge over here. I love also the exposed screw heads, which, by the way, these little exposed screw heads and these little styling details here, you can customize that and add accessories to it. And you can also use these as like a marker, because this vehicle does allow water fording up to 31.5 inches, which I believe comes up to, I want to say this area here. I think that's what I read in the brochure. You can also get the vehicle with a snorkel, which will increase the fording depth by about 10 inches. That's available on the Trailmaster if you guys want that, or it's an a la carte option for $900. You can see the mirrors. They have no integrated cameras. There's only a rear camera on this vehicle, and there's also, I believe, no parking sensors. I didn't see that. Actually, no, I'm sorry. There are front and rear parking sensors. Totally missed that earlier. The turn signal is down here. As you can see, these are not power folding, but they do move out of the way when you guys are off-roading. I also love these little rails that you can get on that come standard on the side, along with these little grab handles, as you can see. Those rails are designed to essentially allow you to put items and mount them to the side of the vehicle. And you can see above me here, the Safari windows are also included on this trim. Those actually pop up, or you can remove them entirely. And you can also, put items here with several different accessories. Ineos says that the roof can actually carry up to 330 pounds dynamically, or over 900 pounds of static weight, which is among the tops in the class. I also noticed the back windows aren't tinted. That's something that I would probably add. You can get that from the factory as part of like a 1924 special edition that they just introduced. And as you can see, there's some really nice badging here to show that this is built in Hambach. And that's because Ineos purchased a smart factory from Mercedes in France to build this vehicle. And they said that they did that for, supply chain purposes, because the plant was already ready to build vehicles. And it's one of the reasons why the build quality of this vehicle is surprisingly good, even though this is a new car company. Now, as you can see here, the access ladder on my test car is included when you guys go for the Trailmaster or the Fieldmaster. This factory part feels incredibly durable. Like, I can literally climb up on this and pull myself up, and it feels like it's built to really hold a lot of weight. I couldn't find what the weight capacity of it was, but it feels super beefy. I also love the color of this car. It's called Britannia Blue. It's a dark blue that's a solid color. It's a free color as well. I probably would go with the light blue for an extra 725 bucks, but it really looks good along the lines of this vehicle. You can see the taillights. I love the circular design. They are full LED, as you can see, with LED turn signals, LED reverse lights, and brake lights, and I just love the look of it. I also love how you get a spare wheel, a full-size spare wheel with a matching alloy with the same BF Goodrich tire, and if you guys want, Ineos will sell you a secondary tire attachment that can actually go up on the roof where you can carry an extra spare tire. So what other brand offers you that feature? So again, it really shows their off-road roots, how they really want this vehicle to be one of the most capable off-roaders that you're gonna find in the business. As you can see, the tow hitch is included on this particular model. You've got dual exhaust tips back here, which are chrome tipped and point down. You can really see the beefy skid plate underneath here, along with the suspension components, which you can actually get port axles, I believe, on this car and raise it up even further. That's where you're gonna allow it to go forward up to 41.5 inches of water. When you guys get that feature. The one thing I am surprised to see is there's no rear wiper back here. Or actually, I'm sorry, it's tucked underneath here. I just couldn't find the switch for it, although it's probably on the same stock. But if you want to open up the cargo area, Ineos actually does a double or a 30-70 split for the tailgate, which I actually think is a really nice touch, because unlike other brands which have the single wide opening tailgate, which either opens from the driver or the passenger side, this actually gives you the versatility, and it makes that door there not super huge. Now, when you open it up, you can see the cargo area, the load floor, is massive. And that's because the Grenadier actually has a relatively good size width that isn't accentuated by fender flares. There's actual width to it. Now, this little cover here is a really nice cover that you can put the Safari windows in if you want to take them out. But Ineos says, with the seats up, you get around 41 cubic feet of storage space, which is very, very usable. The load floor is a little bit high. Remember, there's no adjustable suspension with this vehicle. If you fold down those back seats, which is a two-step process, it doesn't create a completely flat floor, but it expands the cargo to around 72 cubic feet of space. Again, that is very usable. It's on par with a lot of its other mid-size rivals. In fact, it has more space versus some of those rivals. This right here, if you want, you can open this up, and you can see it opens up to reveal a little tiny storage compartment, which is going to be pretty usable if you guys want to hide a few items in here. So that's a nice touch. But if you guys again are looking for features like a power lift gate, obviously you're not going to get it when you have a side swinging gate like this. Now, moving on to the interior of the Ineos Grenadier. Before we get inside, I want to show you guys the, once again, old school key fob. As you can see, Ineos went with a totally new design for their key fob in general. And as you can see as well, it has a switchblade key, and that's because the company does not offer intelligent access with push button start. You have to actually take out the physical key and hit the lock button there to lock the vehicle. You can also hit the unlock button that'll unlock the doors. That's the panic button, as I annoyingly found out when I pushed that. So try to avoid hitting that button. There is no release here to actually open up the cargo area because there's no power liftgate, but regardless, as you approach the door handle, as you can see, the door handle itself is actually fixed into position. To open it, you actually have to push that in, and that will open up the door for you. It kind of also has a satisfying thunk when you close it, kind of similar to a G-Wagon, but not quite in the same tone. But it's still very, very nice. Now, looking at the interior, this Fieldmaster trim that I'm showing you is kind of the more luxury-oriented version. You can see it comes standard with these Recaro bucket seats, which I was really shocked to find Recaro seats. They're comfortable, supportive. They're covered in a gray and black two-tone leather combination that is, again, included when you guys go for the Fieldmaster trim. You can also get this with a black interior, but this two-tone look here with the dark blue exterior is a chef's kiss in terms of combination. Now, as you can also see, no power seats. Instead, you have a 6-way manual adjustable seat. And Ineos did it this way because this entire interior is waterproof. You could hose this out. You actually have like a waterproof flooring material, although you can option in carpet if you guys would prefer carpet. And these seats are also heated. That's what the Fieldmaster trim includes. No ventilated seats, because if it had ventilated seats, you wouldn't be able to wash out this interior. So again, that adds to the whole functionality part. Even though it would be nice to have ventilated seats, I understand why Ineos didn't want to go with that. Now, looking at the door panel materials, this is not a luxury branded vehicle by any means, but it has some pretty premium materials. The upper door panel here has a soft touch injection molded plastic with a nice feeling graining material. I don't love the piano black plastic here. The door handles, you can see, are silver painted plastic, and they could feel a little bit more beefy. You can see down here, this is kind of where I noticed that there's not really a place to rest your elbow. I find that to be a little bit annoying. There's also fit and finish here, you can see, is for the most part is okay. This vehicle, again, is built in Hamburg at a plant that Mercedes used to build smart cars at. The window controls, they are unique to Ineos, but I also see some parts bin sharing from, I don't know, from somewhere. It looks pretty familiar, but the windows are one touch down for all four, but they are not one touch up. Again, they could have made it one touch up, but that's going to add more complexity, and Ineos is trying to keep it simple here. Down here on this lower portion, you can see this is kind of like a harder, cheap plastic, but it's designed to be very durable. You have door storage pocket, and then the premium sound comes standard with this trim. I believe it's actually manufactured by JBL because I saw a subwoofer under the seat that showed it was branded by JBL. Now, as you can see, my test car has a nice step rail here. However, what it is lacking is a grab handle here. So to get short people like myself up, I have to basically step on this and then hold the steering wheel to kind of stabilize myself. A grab rail or handle there would have been nice as I shut the door. Really solid sounding thunk from the driver's seat, so that's absolutely fantastic. My test car also has the saddle tan steering wheel, which I actually love how it's a contrast look. It looks good with the saddle tan there and the gray and black leather, because you can see switchblade key. Stick the key in the ignition over here, and then when you want to start it, you actually have to put your foot on the brake and then twist it. But when it starts up, it has that satisfying BMW straight six noise, and as you can see, that looked like an instrument panel, but it's all your warning lights which are located here. Surprisingly, it doesn't let me rev the engine very high, which is a shame because it's a wonderful sounding engine. But regardless, if you're looking at, the rest of the controls in this interior, this is kind of where it reminds me a little bit of a Land Rover, especially with the dash design. You have a 12.3-inch center display here, which is standard. This is kind of borrowed from BMW, but the software has been completely redone by Ineos. You can see this left portion of the screen always stays there because it shows you all your necessary information, like your speedometer, your tach, your fuel temperature gauge, odometer, your remaining range, your gear position indicator. Material quality here on the upper dash is also a soft touch injection molded plastic from the door panel onto the dash. There's a little shelf here, which is kind of nice. It's also padded over here. This area here, however, is a cheaper plastic, although this has some nice leather for the passenger handle here. I also like the way this looks here with the traditional vents. You have a compass over here as well, which is going to be useful if you guys are off-roading. Your clock is actually located in the actual screen, as you can see right there. And then I love the fact that there's a big sea of buttons here. In fact, Ineos says this entire panel is water resistant. So if you get this wet, these buttons here are kind of sealed off where they won't allow water in. You can see this Fieldmaster test car has the heated seats, which are 3-level, but no cooled seats. Like I said, you have a single zone climate control function where if I start to rotate this, you can see it'll tell you what temperature you have it set at. It goes up in 2 increments. So that's, nice how at least Ineos includes that. You also have your defrost buttons here, your AC and recirc button here, your volume knob is over here, your start, stop, defeat button is here. It's a really nice large button right by the gear shifter, so that's definitely nice. I also love the traditional handbrake here. That's a pull style, and you also have a nice meaty lever here to put it from high-low to 4-low, and it's an actual mechanical lever. This shifter is ripped off of a BMW. It's their older shifter where you have to push on this trigger, push it forward to go into reverse. You can see there's your backup camera with trajectory, distance markers, parking sensors, but no automatic cross-traffic braking. You're not going to find that in a vehicle like this. The shifter itself, if you guys are used to older BMW products, this is going to be pretty familiar. The other great thing is this is a touchscreen here, and it does include wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The CarPlay just takes up this 3/4 portion of the screen. Android Auto is going to be a wired connection. If you don't want to touch that, you can actually use this little rotary dial here, which again is also water resistant. It gives you all these usual buttons here to access the items or the sources in the actual software in the menu. And I also love the exposed screw heads here. It just looks like a very durable feeling cabin. It looks like it's going to last a long time. I also like how the center console is nice and big. It's padded leather there. Open that up. It's not the deepest center console storage area. I was actually hoping for a little bit more space in there. This is also a lockable center console storage area, so you can hide your valuables in here, although again, it's not very big. The armrest height is also in a good position. The Recaro seats are also extremely comfortable and supportive, and the heat function works really, really well. It gets super hot, so if you guys live in a cold climate, you're gonna like that, but no heated steering wheel, which by the way, the steering wheel, as you can see, comes with a manual tilt telescoping adjustment, which doesn't offer much in terms of adjustability, but I can find a pretty comfortable driving position, and I also love the commanding view of the road. You have your buttons here for your cruise control, voice commands are there, and then you can see audio controls are here. The horn sounds really loud, but if you guys would like to do a toot horn, I love that. That's to basically alert pedestrians or bicyclists that you're kind of in there or in their presence. So that's kind of a more polite way to say excuse me as opposed to the super loud horn. I also love how it says toot. That's really, really cute. Looking over at the rest of the center console area, you can see it's pretty much a sea of buttons, but I also love how the buttons have a nice satisfying click to them, and Ineos said they wanted that on purpose because that's what the CEO, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, really prefers. And you can see a lot of the materials down here are also hard touch plastic, but they feel very, very durable. Above me, you can see there's a lot of buttons here for your driver assistance stuff, where you can turn off the electronic stability control. It also has a downhill assist control. That's for your auxiliary lights. But when I push that, it wasn't actually turning the fog lights on. So if you guys know how to turn those on, let me know in the comment section below. Maybe I missed something. This is for your interior lights. Your ambient lighting in here is actually LED, which surprised me. And then you also have auxiliary power in this vehicle as well. If you want to hook up any exterior lights, any optional accessories, you can do so. I also love how this panel feels really durable with the exposed screw heads. This is the Safari windows, which, as you can see, just push up if you want to vent them for air. You can also take them out entirely if you want to have like a sunroof feature. I've heard these leak from earlier models. I haven't had a chance to drive this vehicle out in the rain, but I do know that it was taken through a car wash before they brought it to my house and it didn't leak. So I guess Ineos have made some, had to fix that and made some corrections there. You can see there are a couple of fitment issues I'm noticing over here. The glove box is really, really tiny, but at least the car does offer a glove box. But I didn't hear any squeaks and rattles in this interior, which is really nice. But overall, as you can see, this is definitely not a luxury-oriented interior, but it still has a surprisingly decent infotainment system, lots of traditional hard buttons, good visibility, actually king of the road visibility, and it has super comfortable seats. But let's go ahead and hop into the back seat area. I can show you guys what that is like. Now, as you can see, when you open it up, Ineos says you only have around 30.8 inches of legroom back here. That is tiny, but at the same time, when you sit back here, it seems like it actually has more. It's also pretty wide where you could fit 3 people across. The material quality back here is the same as the front seat, where it's soft touch. Still no area to rest your elbow here, although you can rest your elbow pretty comfortably over here, which is nice. All hard touch plastic here. And then as you can see, the seats, they don't offer the ability to recline, but if you want to fold the seats down, you have to lift this out of the way first, which reveals the fuse and some wires, which doesn't look great. But when you fold this down, you can see you actually have to take out the headrest to fold this down. So that's a 2-step process, technically a 3-step process, which I find to be irritating. But even when you have the seat folded, you can see there's a pretty big dip here. So it's not a completely flat floor. This could have been redone. It's again an homage to old school SUVs, but I wouldn't be upset if this left entirely, because it's just not good for practicality usage. Now, getting inside, you can see no grab handle here, so to hoist myself in, I'm kind of grabbing onto the seat, which isn't the easiest. But once you get back here, shut the door, you can see this is basically my driving position. It's not bad. I mean, there's not great foot space underneath here, but the seats are also raised up. You do have rear seat air vents back here, and you also have 2 USB charging ports, an A and a C, shockingly. And then there's more USBs. I forgot to point them out, located in here if you guys are looking for a USB-A. There's a USB-A in there, which is nice. The raised seating in here definitely allows for better visibility, which is a plus for sure. And then I'm also noticing there's no armrest here, so that's a little bit of a disappointment, but you do have these beefy head restraints here. An armrest would have really been nice for a little more comfort. There's also no storage cubbies in each of the front seat backs, no heated seats back here, which is kind of what I expected. Land Rover puts like a Safari window back here, but Ineos does not. They only have it over the front windows, as you can see. But in terms of the headroom space, there is a ton of headroom in this vehicle, and that's because of the extremely high roof. In fact, the vehicle itself is 80.7 inches high, so make sure it fits into a garage. If your garage is under 6 feet, it obviously won't fit. But overall, the backseat area, even though on paper doesn't seem great, you can fit actual adults back here. I can cross my legs and get comfortable, and you have relatively big side windows. No third row in this vehicle, but again, if you plan to use this as a family car, the Grenadier certainly can do so. So here we are, finally behind the wheel of the Ineos Grenadier. I mean, this car has been on sale in the US for about 2 years, so it has been long awaited for me to finally get behind the wheel of this vehicle. And I have to say, I have always had a soft spot for like a back to basics analog off-road machine. I mean, as we pass by that Bronco, this feels even more old school than a Bronco. It feels even more old school than a Wrangler, although kind of similar in the sense that we're driving a vehicle with live axles front and rear. It's got a ladder type frame. It's got a recirculating ball type steering. And by the way, the steering in this car, even though we're driving the Fieldmaster, which is the more luxury, I wouldn't even say road going variant, you constantly have to make corrections to the steering. I mean, look at how much I can turn the wheel and it doesn't even respond. I mean, this feels like I'm driving a car from a completely different era, but at the same time, it's got some modern conveniences in it. So it's a very peculiar experience. But what Ineos did proper, though, is by going to BMW for the powertrain. It's got the B58, a turbo inline 6. That's the same engine that BMW has been using in everything. It makes 282 horsepower, 332 pound-feet of torque. It's hooked up to the ZF 8-speed auto, which is also a fantastic transmission. 332 foot-pounds of torque, like I said. Ineos says this model is capable of 0 to 60 in around 8.8 seconds. Let's go ahead and see what we can get here on our usual road. This vehicle does come with their full-time four-wheel drive system as standard, and it does have start-stop, which I absolutely can't stand the start-stop, but we'll just go ahead and we'll floor it. Oh, the engine sounds good. It's just definitely doesn't feel as fast as oh wow, 0 to 60 in 8.29 seconds there. And I also want to point out, I am literally having to fight the wheel to keep this vehicle going straight. I haven't experienced a car like this in so long, where it literally wants to wander around and you're constantly fighting the wheel to keep it going straight. I mean, this is the kind of a car where you don't want to be distracted in your driving, because you will literally steer into the car next to you or into, you know, oncoming lanes or whatnot. I think Ineos could tune the steering on the road, at least, to be a little bit more refined there. I mean, I understand that that's the whole point when you're driving around in a vehicle that has a recirculating ball type steering, but this is supposed to still be a little bit of a modern car, and that might startle people if you're not used to driving something like that. I mean, it's refreshing. It is refreshing to drive a vehicle that's so mechanical and analog in today's modern world. So I'm actually kind of impressed and pleased by that. Let's try another 0 to 60 run here. Definitely, if you brake torque it, it makes a difference. Oh, I love that straight six sound. 8.8 seconds there. Now that's with it more going slightly uphill. I'm also noticing I'm having trouble getting full service here because it's starting to rain. Welcome to the South Central PA in the summertime, where a rain shower can show up out of nowhere. But this BMW engine, even though it is making like 100 less horsepower versus the new interpretations of this motor, it's still a wonderful gem of an engine. It's so sonorous, it's sweet, it loves to rev, it sounds good, it's so smooth also. And it's hooked up with one of the best transmissions in the business. That ZF 8-speed is just an amazing partner for this transmission, or for this engine. It just is constantly snapping gears. It feels good. It feels refined. It also feels really well done. I wasn't expecting such refinement to come from the powertrain. So it really tells me that Ineos knew exactly what they were doing when they went to BMW for the powertrain partner and collaboration for this vehicle. Now, for a vehicle that also has live axles front and rear, and its body on frame design, it actually rides really well. And that's a trademark, of course, to the 18-inch alloy wheels on the all-terrain tires. The suspension itself is tuned, of course, to basically be for off-road, to give you that wheel articulation, to give you the soft suspension. I definitely feel the soft suspension out on, you know, roads. This vehicle feels cumbersome to drive. It feels very tippy when you start pushing it around corners. You don't want to go too fast. This is the kind of car that's going to make you want to slow down on, you know, your favorite back road, because it just doesn't enjoy it. When you combine it with its, you know, very imprecise recirculating ball type steering, it feels like this thing is kind of a chore, but when you put your foot down, it is satisfying. I do love the way this car feels and sounds, the way it accelerates. I just don't love the way it handles out on the road. Now, granted, on off-road situations, you're gonna love the way it feels there, because it's gonna feel really, really smooth, just beefy. It's gonna feel like it can easily take on whatever you're gonna throw at it off-road, in off-road situations. So that's kind of a benefit with that, of course. But let's try another 0 to 60 run here. And this time we've got full service on our race box here. We're gonna brake torque it. Oh, it's spinning the tires. That's hilarious. 8.18 seconds there. So we'll take that as our best time. Again, this vehicle does have a full-time four-wheel drive system with a beefy actual lever to put it into 4-low. My Tuscar is missing the rough pack, so it doesn't have the locking front and rear diffs, but we do have the locking center diff. What I do notice about this car, however, is the awful turning radius. I can usually make that turn pretty easily in every other car that I've tested, but in this car, it actually required me to go into the oncoming lane. Good thing there was no cars coming. So Ineos says it's got a 44-foot turning radius, and that definitely needs to be addressed. I know it's an imprecise recirculating ball type steering, but it just makes driving this vehicle on the road a little bit of a chore. And that's kind of where, you know, Land Rover has a very modern, all new generation Defender, and it's just is easier to live with out on the road, but at the same time, I would argue that the Defender doesn't have the same kind of charm that this car has. It doesn't feel as beefy. This thing feels like it's basically built to last for like 30 years. In fact, Ineos says they designed the chassis, they over-engineered the chassis, the suspension, the entire vehicle to last 30 years, which is 3 times longer versus what every other manufacturer designs a vehicle to last, which is typically 10 years. So this kind of, feel doesn't come, with any modern car nowadays. So that's kind of what gives the Ineos Grenadier an edge up over a lot of its rivals. In terms of the visibility, the view out of the front is actually pretty good. You have this commanding view out of the front. You have the dash that's a little bit high, but the hood is nice and low. These mirrors are also large. The side mirrors are a good size. The one thing I noticed this car is lacking is blind spot monitoring. I'm surprised it doesn't have blind spot monitoring. It does have active or lane keep assist, although the lane departure alert is infuriating because you've got this really awful steering that's imprecise, and then the vehicle wanders around and it's constantly pinging at you with that stupid ding to tell you to get back into the center of the lane. So I would like to turn that ding off, which you can do, but it defaults back to on, which is again a software thing that they could address. The vehicle also comes with auto emergency braking, but if you're looking for adaptive cruise control, that's not available. Traffic jam assist, that's not available. You don't expect vehicles like that. You can't really have an active lane keep assist when you've got recirculating ball type steering. It's just too imprecise, and that's kind of the trade-off that you have to make when you want something that's much more old school, a lot more analog for this vehicle. Now, in terms of the view out of the back, the spare tire blocks the view, but also that split window also blocks the view. This is where I would like to see a digital camera rearview mirror, but again, you have to, think about what this car's mission is. You start complaining and wanting too much tech stuff, you're gonna find it's not going to come with that stuff, so there are compromises that you're going to have to make. The one thing I do love, however, are these Recaro seats. The Recaro seats, they actually hold you in place really nicely. The padding is perfection. The Fieldmaster that we're driving comes with the upgraded leather, of course, with heated seats. No ventilated seats, which, again, it would be nice if they had ventilated seats, but then this interior wouldn't be washable. You wouldn't be able to hose everything out. It's completely waterproof. If you had holes in the seats, you wouldn't be able to do that. So, again, it comes with a trade-off. It comes with a compromise. And then there's the fuel economy. This vehicle is not designed for great gas mileage, even though the BMW B58 engine's always been a fuel-efficient motor. 15 is what it's rated. I was averaging around 13 miles to the gallon in mostly city driving. On the highway, though, I was able to beat the city number, and I got 17.5 mpg, which is actually pretty darn good. Expect around 280-ish miles of range on a full tank. This has a big gas tank, 23.6 gallons. But again, when you're getting, teen figures for MPG, it's not going to be great in that regard. So, keep that in mind. Ineos is working on a fully electric model. They're actually working on 2 models to come out in the next year or two, but this model definitely has that old school charm, and I'm really impressed at their first go at it. Ineos really captured a lot of that analog old school magic that people expect in those, early Defenders. The Defender, when it was in production for almost 70 years, and then when Land Rover killed it, that's the whole reason Sir Jim Ratcliffe, built this company, started this company, because he wanted to buy Land Rover's Defender's chassis and build them, and they said no. And what he's done here is he's built a modern day Defender. This is the true modern day Defender with all of the cumbersome, trade-offs that you have to make when you buy a vehicle, when you build a vehicle like this. But at the same time, I love it. It has so much charm, so much character. I mean, I wouldn't want to take this vehicle on a long highway road trip. But if I was going to take this vehicle off-road, if I wanted something to last really long, if I wanted something weird, something different, something unique, I would definitely take a look at this. But at the same time, given the price of this car, I might consider looking at it in the used car market, because I think that's going to be the sweet spot for this vehicle, is finding it for a lot cheaper on the used car market versus buying it when it's brand new, which arguably is decently priced, but also pretty darn expensive. So the driving dynamics of the Ineos isn't really good on the road, but this is kind of where the hardware that this car comes with the live axles front and rear, the recirculating ball type steering, become assets when you take this vehicle off-road. Now obviously, I'm on this dirt trail here about an hour south of where I live, and this is kind of like a nice little rutted road where you go through some river crossings or creek crossings to kind of show off some mild off-roading. And I would estimate this is kind of the off-roading that a lot of people would do, especially when you have a vehicle like this, when you can drive it through, deep ruts. This vehicle has around 10.5 inches of ground clearance. It's got a permanent 4-wheel drive system, and it also has some off-road modes. Now, my particular test car is missing the rough pack, so it doesn't have the locking front and rear diffs, but it does still come with the locking center diff, and of course, this vehicle has a real 4-wheel drive system, so You can really just kind of throw this thing into whatever you'd like on these rutted roads, and it just takes it, because remember, this is a very over-engineered chassis. Ineos says it's designed to last 30 plus years, which is 3 times what most cars are designed to last. So it gives this vehicle that tank-like feel that you're looking for, and it's one of the reasons why, you know, the Sir Jim Ratcliffe was designing a vehicle like this. Now we're going to go through this little river crossing, which usually is higher, but it's been rather dry for the past week or so. So it's not quite as deep as it should be, but as you can see, this car literally just takes all the abuse that you throw at it. It's got a really nice sound from its turbocharged straight 6. And what I am noticing though is it's bumpier than I expected it to be, but it also has a live axle front and rear. So that's the reason why you might, you know, drive something that has an independent front suspension and it feels a little bit smoother. But at the same time, the suspension feels very robust. Like, you hear the typical kind of noises you might hear in like a Jeep Wrangler. In fact, when I drive this thing, the steering system is so awful on the road. Here out on these ruts, you know, when you hit that bump, the wheel doesn't kind of like fight its way out of your hands like it would for a typical rack and pinion steering system. So, I mean, overall, obviously it's clear that Ineos had a mission in mind with this vehicle. And even though most people are probably going to keep their Ineos on pavement, when you take this vehicle out into this kind of environment, it really just shines. It shows you that this vehicle was designed primarily to be an off-roader first, but that's exactly how the Land Rover Defender was. So clearly Ineos got the mission right when they were thinking about this car from a design standpoint. So after spending a full week with the Ineos Grenadier, I have to say this has been a long-awaited review. When I first had a chance to see these vehicles, I was super impressed with how they looked. I was very curious to see how they would drive, but again, spending a whole week with this model, I'm truly seeing a lot of the charm that Ineos has built into this car. Because if you guys have owned the original Defender or even an old Land Cruiser, this is essentially your chance to buy a modern version of it, a truly modern version that still feels very analog, that still feels very mechanical, still feels very old school. It comes with all the usual compromises that you expect with a vehicle like this, because as you guys saw, its on-road driving demeanors is not great. This vehicle feels cumbersome, it feels tippy, it feels like it doesn't want to go in a straight line because you're constantly have to making corrections to the steering wheel, which is something that you're going to experience if you guys have driven a Wrangler, a Jeep Wrangler, although this feels even more like it wanders around. So that's something that I'm hoping Ineos can tweak out, because again, most people are still going to be driving this vehicle out on the road, although again, when you take this vehicle off-road, it's really going to change your perception, because that slow recirculating ball steering is going to be phenomenal and an asset when you guys are driving the vehicle off-road. What I was surprised with is the ride quality. Even though this vehicle has that live axle front and rear, it soaks up the bumps nicely. It feels relatively stable. It doesn't have that jitteriness that I feel in something like the new Toyota 4Runner or a Toyota Land Cruiser. So I think Ineos got the ride right. They just need to work on the steering feel and the handling, because it still feels a little too tippy, even for something that is old school. I think a lot of buyers might be turned off a little bit with how tippy it feels, at least out on the road. The engine, however, is perfection. I love that BMW straight 6. I wish it had like an extra 100 horsepower to drop the 0 to 60 time to, you know, the low 7-second range. But again, 8.1 seconds is going to be acceptable for most people. You don't buy a vehicle like this to go drag racing. And surprisingly, on the highway, it's not as noisy as I was expecting it to be, even though we've got all-terrain tires and it's not the most aerodynamic car. This has the aerodynamics of a brick. The interior also is surprisingly well done, and it has a modern 12.3-inch display. I do kind of wish Ineos had put an actual instrument panel behind the steering wheel, but it just takes a little getting used to look off to the side. A lot of brands are doing that. It has wireless CarPlay, but Android Auto is via a wired connection, so it's got an older software. In fact, the software in this vehicle kind of reminds me of an older BMW system, but Ineos has also reskinned it and redone it with their own software. So again, everything about this vehicle feels pretty unique, but at the same time, they are still using parts from well-known manufacturers. Like the seats come from Recaro, the four-wheel drive system comes from Bosch, but Ineos again tunes everything on their own. And the cargo area is also really useful. I just wish that the rear seats folded down in an easier manner and had a fold flat capability. That would be useful if you guys want to sleep inside the vehicle if you're off-roading. But again, the simple solution would be to put a roof tent on the roof, because this vehicle can hold over 900 pounds of static weight, which is very impressive. It's going to be great if you actually want to use this vehicle to go camping out in the wilderness and etc. But overall, what makes the Ineos so unique is the fact that it does feel incredibly old school, and it's one of the most old school feeling vehicles that you're going to buy. In fact, the Jeep Wrangler for me would be number 2, but that's going to be an asset for people who are looking for a car like this, because Ineos basically said ever since it came to the market in the US, sales have really exceeded what they were expecting. They were expecting to sell between 8,000 to 10,000 units. I don't have final sales figures because that hasn't actually been released, but Ineos says that at their plant in Hamburg, they have the capacity to build around 25,000 units. Now, of course, I am surprised by the demand being so high, but at the same time, the pricing of this vehicle is not affordable, but it's probably right in line what you would expect for a car like this, because base price for the Grenadier station wagon starts at around $78,900. There is also a pickup truck, the Quartermaster, which I'll do a separate review on, that will start at just over $91,000. This Fieldmaster trim that I'm showing you here costs around $8,000 more for a base price of $86,900. The Trailmaster, which is the more off-road oriented version, which lacks some of the luxury touches that this trim has, also costs around $86,900. Now, my particular test car with some options like the wheels, the upgraded tires, the tow package, and the $1,600 destination charge, stickers for a grand total of $91,200. I know, 90 grand for a vehicle that technically you've never even heard of the brand. It's a new brand name, although the vehicle does come with a 5-year, 60,000 mile bumper-to-bumper warranty, and you can also get this vehicle serviced at BMW dealers because it has an engine that has been proven over and over again for well over a decade, with hundreds of thousands of miles on some BMW and even Toyota products that use this engine. So I think overall, surprised at how good the build quality is. I think Ineos did a great job by going to well-known partners to help develop this vehicle, and I'm very curious to see what the next step is going to be for Ineos, because they have confirmed that an all-electric model is coming. They've also confirmed a new model is coming. You're going to be expected to see 2 new models show up in the Ineos brand sometime this decade. So I think that they've basically hit it the nail right on the head if you guys are looking for an old school SUV with this Grenadier. If you want a pickup truck, the Quartermaster also is going to satisfy that for you. But again, if you're looking for an actual old school Land Rover Defender, don't look at the new Defender. You should definitely be taking a look at this, but just keep in mind, I personally would probably look at one of these used, because on the used car market, if this car is 90 grand new, I'm gonna be surprised to see one for half that price in the next year or two. Well, with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Ineos Grenadier and the Fieldmaster trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.